So welcome back to my podcast. I just want to preface this by saying pardon the congestion if you can hear it with these headphones on. But today I'm going to be doing not as much a book report, but more so a summarization of all the takeaways I had from the book Beautiful Boy by David Sheff. Uh, I just wanted to start off for anyone who has not read the book. I want to read some praise quotes for the book so you can just have an idea of how great the book really was. So first we have from the San Francisco Chronicle. They had said that Beautiful finds the tricky balance point most memoirs step over, the benefit of distance from the tragedy versus respect for its impact. The author accomplishes this through prodigious and brilliantly deployed research. Secondly, we can find another great praise quote from Susan Cheever, the author of Note Found in a Bottle and My Name is Bill. This story of parental love is a masterpiece of description and feeling. Sheff portrays addiction and its confusion in a way that is immediate, informative, and heartbreaking. And lastly, we could say from Playboy, all they said was searing. So, I want to introduce that I'm going to be talking about 3 main points that I chose that I felt were the most important and biggest things that anyone who's interested in reading or just is not really very well educated on addiction should know. So my first talking point will be the constant seesaw effect between addiction and recovery and the impact on identity. My second talking point will be the weight addiction puts onto family members and relationships. And my third talking point will be the misconception of loving parenting and enabling. In regards to this constant seesaw back and forth, up and down, whatever you want to say, between addiction and recovery, it also has a big impact on the identity of the addict themselves. Recovery, we all know, as in many different types of recovery, whether it's eating disorder, drugs, any other things, recovery is never linear. It's going to be a spiral, and you're going to fall into holds, and you're going to fall back into old habits, and you're going to revisit the same issues over and over again. This scab will not heal for a long, long time because it does, in fact, take trial and error. And no other person than those who are struggling with addiction can even imagine what it is like. So I don't want to make it seem like I know what I'm talking about, though I do know people that I keep close, like in my loved ones that are struggling and have struggled with addiction and sobriety. I could just never be able to fully understand and know what that is like. And there was just this consistent back and forth in the book that where Nick began to like blur the lines in his mind, and he did not know like who he was between recovering Nick and addicted Nick. Like he was just beginning to lose himself in this big like disease that was just eating at him every day of his life. And this addiction began to give him like this fragmented sense of self, if I could say. And in some context, he could be charming, he could be functional, he could be kind, he could be doing great, happy, well spirits. But then, the next day or even in the next hour, you could be aggressive, you could be desperate, you could be rude, you could be lashing out at people. It's just, there's never a set medium. There's always going to be ups and downs, and there never was just like times of calm. And if there was, the storm would take over the calm very quickly. And a direct quote I was just thinking of in my mind, it was fresh on my mind, was that overall his struggles with his sense of self really like highlighted and created this tragic irony of addiction, because you're trying to escape yourself, you're trying to get out of this, you want to just get out, this is not you, you want to escape this addiction, you want to be better, you want to go back to what you think is normal, and you lose yourself while trying to escape yourself. And let's say you're going to go to rehab, let's say you're starting to recover, but like if you want to recover and you want to become sober, you have to face and confront this unrecognizable self that you no longer even see anymore. Like it's just one of these things where you could be so angry and have so much like self-conflict and like turmoil within yourself just because of how you are, and you're so upset how things are, and you could be so clean, you could be going great, and even if you just surround yourself with the wrong people for 5 minutes, you could fall right back in. This is something that's very sensitive, and if you want to recover and become what you think is normal again, because I don't want to use the word normal because I don't want to sound backhand in any way, but you have to really confront who you are. You have to accept that this is who you've become. And in order to like grow and change, you have to accept what is right in front of you when you look in the mirror. And other than just, having to confront the identity of yourself and look in the mirror and really have to hunker down and be like, I want to make a change. I want to change. I can't be living like this anymore. Just imagine from the point of view of your parents or your brothers, your sisters, your aunts, your uncles, any type of guardian around you. There's obviously and without a doubt going to be weight put on and a strain put onto these relationships because all family knows, especially parents, all they know how to do is love you. Now I want to delve into point two, and this is the weight that addiction puts onto family members and relationships of any kind with loved ones. Um, as we know, addiction, or substance use disorder, as you want to call it, is a chronic brain disease, and it is characterized by a powerful and compulsive urge to like seek and use substances of whatever you could even imagine. And even if there's harmful consequences, this is just what eats at you. And though it may seem like it's just a disease for a person, just for the person who's addicted, but it eats at the entire family because it's taking over the whole family itself. I mean, it is a personal battle, but the actions and the way that you're treating people and the things that you're doing, you're sneaking out, you're leaving for days on end. Nick would leave for days on end and not contact his family, and his dad would be concerned. It's something that affects the entire family around you, specifically the parents, because all they want to know and all that parent wants to do is love and care for their children. That is what parents are for. And if you're not like that and other parents are like that, that is not a true parent. But that's what step parents are for, adoptive parents, but I'm not going to dive into that right now. But this is like a thing, I don't want to say problem, but this is a, a disorder that doesn't just affect the person who is addicted. This is something that takes over everyone. And uh, I feel that David really like effectively portrayed the struggles of the addict and the family around him that are affected because he wanted to make sure, obviously, because this is a real testimony, but it gives a real and nothing sugarcoated. This perspective is legit. He goes through the backs and forths. He even decides to try the drugs that his son was trying just to see what he could feel like, what possibly could be so amazing about this. And, when David was young, obviously he was a teenager. All teenagers try things, or college students, they try things. They drink, they do drugs. Nothing hard, but you try something, you're having fun. But this is something where it took over that little baby boy that he used to see every day because, you know, I feel like addicts or people that are struggling, kids that are struggling with problems, they think, oh, that my parent just sees me as like this 18-year-old who's struggling with this, yada, yada, yada. But in reality, when your parent looks at you, they see baby you. David was seeing Nick as this sweet young boy who was addicted, and the drugs were just killing like the true loving nature of who his son really was under this, you could say, demons. And during addiction, Nick, he was losing control. His brain was changing, like the dopamine and all like the different hormones and all these highs. It's just changing all over again because you need the substance to feel normal. Um, you know, Nick was experiencing withdrawals and it was impacting his life with the college and with relationships with girls and relationships with people, the way he was, who he was hanging out with, what he was doing. I mean, to this day, I mean, David probably still doesn't know, but I'm not David, so I can't say this, but, you know, to this day, David probably still has no idea what his son would be doing when he would leave for all these days on end. And family members can like feel so many different emotions from this. It could be guilt, it could be shame, it could be anxiousness, because you feel that it's your fault. Because as a parent, you raise your kid and you raise them to be great, and you want them to be the person that you weren't, or you want to give them the parental relationship and love that you never got. And you know if you had a kid that was addicted, you could suddenly begin to like blame yourself and wonder if it was your fault. Like, oh, what did I do wrong? Where did I mess up? Like, where did we go wrong with raising a kid? But you just can't think like that. And inevitably, as we all know, trust was broken between David and Nick, and also Karen, the stepmother. And with the mom, with Nick's biological mom being out in LA, obviously trust was broken, but she wasn't actively in his life all the time, so it's just different. But trust is going to be broken, and this puts a strain on relationships because now you don't know, like, oh, if Nick, let's say Nick was like, okay, Dad, I'm going to go out and do this. And yeah, there was times when things were, calm, and Nick wanted to go out and do things with people and hang out, and it seemed normal to David. But then it seemed normal, and then boom, just like a light switch, it clicked. He was gone for days on end. He came back home. He was aggressive. He was slamming doors. He didn't want to talk to anyone. It's just this thing where parents go through this cycle. They want to rescue the kid. They want to rescue their kid. They're in this rescue cycle. And you could even lose yourself while trying to save your baby. You can lose yourself. And as a parent, all you want to do, you want to love your kids, and you want to nurture them and love them. But then that's when there can be bumps in the road when it comes to being a loving parent, when addiction is in the family. Now I want to transition into the misconception of being a loving parent, but then you're also enabling your child. So, you know, as parents, like I've been saying numerous, numerous times, I'm sorry, that you're doing things out of love for your kids. You are motivated by love to do things for your kids. You want to get them their favorite this, their favorite that, or you want to guide them in the right paths of life. You want to say, don't hang out with that person. You should do this instead. You know, you just wonder also, like David would wonder, like, what did I do wrong? Like, what happened to my beautiful boy? Basically, like the title. What happened to our family? Um, but it just, David had a son, and Nick, yes, Nick, before he became addicted, he was charming and funny and smart and an athlete, honor student, very successful. He was doing great. And as Nick began to fall into meth, he would lie, he would steal, he lived on the streets. It's just, David had all these warning signs around him, the denial, the phone calls at 3 in the morning when Nick had been gone for hours and hours or even days, like when he would try to see if any hospitals checked him in. It's just the amount of love and care and stress that this probably put onto David is something that I could not imagine. And his preoccupation that he had with Nick and like wanting to rescue and save and, where is he? What is he doing? Da, 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 had became an addiction in itself, and he became to have this obsessive worry and stress, and ended up taking a tremendous toll on David also. But, you know, parents do all these things motivated by their love, but it can also enable them. And this is a kind of balance that's not easy to find, because if you do too much, you could be enabling them. If you do too little, it's just something that's hard to find the equilibrium, that stable homeostasis, whatever word you want to use. But tough love is not going to be the answer, because you have to include compassion. And it probably, if you're trying to use tough love, it probably hurts you really bad, but you're trying to use this tough love to try to help your kid. And I don't blame anyone who's tried to use tough love. I mean, I could never know what it's like. I'm not going to say I will never, but I could never know. I can never understand. But tough love is not the answer, because you have to include that love and compassion, but you also have to have boundaries, because if you're doing too much, you could be enabling too much, or you could be like coming off as too kind and, oh, you can do this, like, I'm sorry, I love you, da 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 da. But then for the parents, it's also hard to be able to know, like, when do I step in? When do I help? They've been gone, they've been doing these things, they've been lying, they've been lashing out at us. When do I know when it's time for me to step in? And then when do I need to take a step back and let him realize it on his own? I mean, because you can't hold their hand through a thing like this. You have to just step in when it's necessary and take a step back and let them learn on their own, because if the more you're trying to help them and try to, let's do this, honey, like, take my hand, let's do this, I want to help you, you have to let them learn it on its own. And I don't know how I can make this sound any better, because I know I'm not wording it very well, but I also don't want to sound too harsh. But sometimes you have to be like, you know what, see ya. You want to go do these things, go ahead, because you have to learn that your actions will give consequences. You have to learn that what's coming from what you're doing. And um, so my family friend, I consider him a cousin, is now sober, but was an addict, or is an addict. I don't know how to properly use the wording, so I don't want to like be sensitive, for anything like that. to anyone who's like listening that could be, but just from what I've like observed and what I've seen, his behavior, the stories I've heard from his parents or from my parents that they told me, it's just you get caught up in this mode of like, I want to save my kid. But if you're constantly trying to like be like, oh no, like here, I'll catch all your falls, like so you don't hit too hard on the ground, you won't be fully facing the consequences of your own doings. And um, as I would see like my cousin, I would see him and I would see it a lot, him texting on fake numbers and, oh, like, yo, bro, like, when can we meet up? I need this, I need this, I need this. It's very hard to witness. I mean, I was too young to ever understand, but now as I get older, he's now in a NA group and he likes to openly talk about things, what the group is like and what addiction was like and how it's hard to like just be in it. But no matter what, like regardless of anything, all a parent knows is to love their kids. They're always going to love their kids, but sometimes that love doesn't let things be seen the way they need to be seen. And I feel like it's a harsh reality, but you do kind of need to know. And also, I do have a quote from Thomas Lynch from The Way We Are. It hurts so bad that I cannot save him, protect him, keep him out of harm's way. Um, what good are fathers if not for these things? And I just wanted to like end with a a quote to leave you guys like thinking, wondering, just a quick hook question just for you guys. So my hook question to end up my podcast is going to be, can we truly fix someone we love, or does that just perpetuate the cycle?
The monster's gone, he's on the run.